Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this episode, we're doing a Z-Man Monday. We're not in front of the bait wall. The bait wall's back there. But I did want to show you a bait that, since we're getting into December now, it's December 2nd, I believe. Got my first cold of the wintertime season. Since it's wintertime, we've got to talk about one of my favorite baits to throw this time of year that's more of a slow down and just pick an area apart. There's a lot of reaction baits that I like to throw during the winter time, believe it or not. Crank baits, jerk baits, even spinner baits and chatter baits. But if I get in an area that's maybe a little bit deeper, it's got a lot of rock, and I know I need to slow down because the fish are there, whether I see them on forward-facing sonar or I just have that feeling, I like to throw a jig, okay? And the jig I want to show you today, I was so excited when they came out with this because personally, I lose a lot of jigs this time of year because you're fishing around a lot of craggly rock. All right, so we'll call it snaggle rock, just stuff falling behind me here. So you get a lot of snags, you lose a lot of baits, and so when Z-Man came out with this bait right here, the cross-eye football jig, I was really excited because obviously I work with Z-Man. I could get my hands on a bunch of these, and a lot of my jig losing woes were gone. But this jig is actually a really neat jig. This is actually the plumpkin color. So Z-Man came out with a lot of really cool colors, also traditional colors like PB&J and things like that. This jig, it's got a nice sharp, it's kind of a medium wire hook on it. So like I can fish it on 15-pound test fluorocarbon and be very, very confident that I'm going to get a good hook set, including, I could fish 12-pound test fluorocarbon with this and feel very confident that I'm going to get that hook point into the fish's mouth. Especially this time of year, a fish's mouth is actually pretty tough during the wintertime. I feel like when it's colder, that's the observation that I've seen, is that it gets just a little bit tougher there. Just the meat does. The really cool thing about this football jig, okay, is this weed guard that they've got on there. It's not overpowering this jig. A lot of football jigs have way too thick of weed guards, and this is essentially just a molded plastic V-shaped weed guard that they've glued in there. I love it. I love it. And really, you don't even need that much of a weed guard with a football jig, in my opinion. But this is like the perfect type of weed guard, in my opinion. It can use, if you got a little bit of super glue, I'll be honest, just with it wiggling around and everything and fishing in the cold, sometimes these can pop out. So I would maybe just put a little dollop of super glue right on the top there just to give you a little bit of insurance. But overall, the cross-eyes football jig is my favorite football jig, not just because I get them from Z-Man, but just because of that weed guard. I love the hook, and they have some really, really good colors. So this time of year, I'm usually fishing either personally, I like the half-ounce version or the 3/4 ounce version for the type of fishing that I'm doing. I'm an impatient guy. I generally like to get my bait down quick and maintain bottom contact and not have a problem maintaining bottom contact. So if I'm fishing, below, 20 foot or more, the 3/4 ounce, I guarantee I'm going to be fishing it. If it's like, that 20 foot or less, half ounce kind of gets the nod. But yeah. Anyways, it's one of the best crawfish imitations out there. A football jig is a great way to cover water or just really pick an area apart. It's not actually a great covering water bait, so I kind of take that back, but it is very good at picking an area apart. So one of my favorite lakes for throwing a football jig, there's actually two lakes in Tennessee that I really like to throw it. One is on Dale Hollow. The other one is Douglas. Both of those lakes have a ton of different types of rocks, and lots of transition lines, where one type of rock transitions into another type of rock, or even just sand or mud. That's that's the kind of thing that you're looking for this time of year with a football jig like the Cross Eyes football jig. And also, I really like secondary points this time of year. Okay, so secondary points, what I'm talking about when I say secondary, or anybody says secondary, is the point that's right on the main lake. That's what we call main lake points. Okay, but if it's like in the back half of a creek, that's kind of a secondary point. So it's like if you have a pocket or a creek, the point that is on the main lake point. Those are good too. You can catch fish on those type of points, especially earlier in the wintertime. I'll try those, but usually most of my bites are coming on those points that are inside that creek. So that first set of points inside that creek, that's where I really like to throw these football jigs. And but again, it really has to do more with the combination of rocks that you have, and that's why I like fishing on lakes like Dale Hollow and Douglas, is because there's a lot of those different types of transition lines. Especially with shale. Douglas is one where you see a lot of lines of shale. You'll just see kind of like it's almost like man-made steps, going down the shoreline, and it's surrounded by like gravel or mud, and those fish hang on those steps, that shale, that flat rock, very well. And a football jig is just a really good way to catch those fish. But again, you are going to lose some baits. So on that note, I do want to mention that you don't have to go light with a football jig this time of year. I feel like it's way more important to just keep your bait in the water than to have real light line. Of course, if you're fishing really super crystal clear water, you might want to downsize your line. But generally, I'm fishing probably 17-pound test, maybe even 20-pound test if I can get away with it, just because of how much contact you're making with the bottom, with that rock, and chewing up your line. So, you don't have to go light with your football jigs to get bit this time of year. And going heavier is going to allow you to have, to not lose as many baits, right? So, as far as the rod that I'm going to be fishing, I like to use a 7.3 medium heavy rod. Sometimes if I'm fishing a 3/4 ounce, I'll go to a 7.6 medium heavy. I like to use the all-purpose series from Fitzgerald. I'm going to have all of these things in the description below like normal. So if you're looking to purchase any of this stuff, including the line, the whole setup that I use for these jigs, you can check that out. I will mention one more thing before we go. The type of trailer that I like to use with my football jigs this time of year, including, the Cross Eyes football jig, which is my favorite, is more of a chunk style trailer, okay? A trailer that doesn't have a lot of moving appendages on it, but it has a lot of surface area. So this right here is the Bat Wings from Z-Man. Okay, this is a great example of a trailer that has a lot of surface area, a lot of flat area on it, that creates a nice gliding action on the fall, but it doesn't have like curly tails or like flap and cross style appendages. It's just, it just has that nice glide to it, not a lot of action. This time of year, cold water, the forage species are cold, they're not moving a lot. The crawfish on the bottom naturally are moving very slowly. So you want a trailer that really emulates that type of low activity level that these species are seeing this time of year, or experiencing this time of year. So chunk style trailers tend to be my choice. Not necessarily that color. I would probably go with like a green pumpkin or brown. Those two colors. Like if you wanted two colors that you could fish all throughout the wintertime, green pumpkin and brown, those are the only two colors you need. But anyways, guys, if you've got an area, or if you feel like you need to slow down a little bit, whether it's a specific area or you have a pattern running like points or a certain type of rock or something like that, try these football jigs. They're also really good as kind of a mop-up style of bait. You know, if you go through an area with like a crankbait or like something like a rock crawler or even a jerk bait and you start getting bit, and then you go back through with that same type of bait and you're not getting bit, slow down with the football jig and really, you know, work those areas very, very thoroughly. All right. And as far as I'm concerned, Cross Eyes football jig is one of the best. So check it out. Anyways, guys, that is today's Z-Man Monday, doing a little bit different with a jig this time. But let me know what you think of this video in the comment section below. Hopefully I'll get over this cold pretty soon, because it's uncomfortable. I'll just say that doing these videos. But anyways, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I'm going to see you out on the water. Make sure you trust the process.